O great life-giving Spirit, whose commanding voice I hear in the winds, and whose warm breath gives life to all the world, hear me, 1/5 billionth of the humans on planet Earth. I am a natural part of the universe, as natural and necessary as the rocks, the trees, the birds, and the mice, no more important, nor any less. Let me walk in beauty. Let my spirit see the dynamic spirit of life in all that exists, with no prejudice or malice toward any creation. May I begin to remember who I am in the natural order of things, as I stand in my own shallow pool of time. May I come to know what time it is in my life and in all life. And that time in this moment is to acknowledge our presence in the light of the world and our calling to carry that light beyond this place.
No good tree bears bad fruit, nor again does a bad tree bear good fruit. For each tree is known by its own fruit. For people do not gather figs from thorns, nor do they pick grapes from a bramble bush. The good person, out of the good treasure of the heart, produces good, and the evil person, out of evil treasure, produces evil. For it is out of the abundance of the heart that the mouth speaks. Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do what I tell you? I will show you what someone is like who comes to me, hears my words, and acts on them. That one is like a man building a house who dug deeply and laid the foundation on rock. When a flood arose, the river burst against that house, but could not shake it because it had been well built. But the one who hears and does not act is like a man who built a house on the ground without a foundation. When the river burst against it, it quickly collapsed, and great was the ruin of that house.
If a person is going to build, Jesus said in one of his parables, they do not start before counting the cost. They do not tar the foundation of a house without taking an extra pair of pins. But today he might say, if a person is going to build anything, let's say a levee, they might count the cost of not getting it right. Now, the single little turret that remains on the plains, by the caper overrooted, by the ground overscored, while the patching house leek's head of blossom winks through the chinks, marks the basement, whence a tower in ancient time sprang sublime. The turret may be all that remained of a great house, but there was love among the ruins in Browning's poem. All that was left was a ruin. The two in Jesus' parable of the builders, perhaps each built out of love, love for the home they were about to be able to move into, love for a dream about to be realized for their families, love that was in one case left in ruins. Destruction is the gift that keeps on giving. Jesus' parable tells us it's not enough to know what it is to build a life to code. You have to live it. It's one thing to hear him say, for example, and he wasn't the first to say it, but we're familiar with it. It's one thing to hear him say, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Or treat people the way you want to be treated. And we nod in agreement and we say, absolutely. It's another to do it. If you don't, folks are going to get displaced. If you don't treat each other the way people want to be treated, if the way you want to be treated, folks are going to be displaced. There will be the hypocrisy of your life that will be plain to everyone. They will tut-tut over the ruins of your life. They will Instagram it. You will be famous on TikTok for the wrong reasons. Because you said you were going to do one thing and you did another. They'll say, oh, if only you had said what you meant and meant what you said and done what you said you were going to do. Good definition of integrity, by the way. We wouldn't be talking about you like you're a fool. If you built your life according to the words you claim to believe, we'd look at you differently and your life would be different. Here's another maxim from today's scriptures. It is out of the abundance of the heart that the mouth speaks. Have a look at this picture. Sometimes the thoughts in my head get bored and go out for a stroll through my mouth. That is rarely a good thing. Your words give you away. As we draw Lent to a close in this coming week, we've been giving ourselves extra time for examining our thoughts. We've been looking at our motivations. We've been answering the why questions about who we are, why we do what we do. We give ourselves time to examine the consistency of our lives, to understand our biases. We give ourselves time to remember destruction is that gift that keeps on giving. You know, if you've ever put up a fence yourself or had to dig a wall yourself, you know how hard it is to just go that extra foot that you know you got to go. But if you've got excavating equipment and you got a big budget, 7 feet deeper and those walls would have held. New Orleans wouldn't have flooded. You build against a storm by digging to the next level, and if you don't, more than just a wall is going to give way. This Thursday is the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. And the United Church of Canada will be observing it, and if you want to know more about it, there's some great resources on the United Church website. To my mind, learning more is part of being a hearer and a doer. A person who learns and applies their faith builds a solid foundation for themselves and for others, starting with listening. Last week I was in a meeting with some members of the admission board of the United Church of Canada, and I was reminded what it's like to be a racialized person in ministry. I am not, but many of my colleagues are, and I've tried to make a study of it, and I've talked to them for hours on end. And I try to live with some depth of understanding for the people I cherish, and I do things in my role to try and encourage more people who are racialized to come into ministry in the United Church. We need them. But here's something I learned from being with some people I cherish. I relearned in that meeting, I guess, because I thought I knew it, and then I sat there going, I don't know. Non-racialized, usually white people, can forget that everything a racialized person does sets the stage for the next person. When I go into a meeting, when I go into an interview for a church, I'm going there as a person of privilege. And I'm not thinking about who the next person is going to be. But if I'm racialized, I am responsible in a way that that white person does not understand. There is a cloud of witnesses watching me. May not know any of them. But they know that what I do now will affect the ability of others like them to minister. Bear that extra burden. These folks take on the responsibility to build a future for people they may never meet. A Black leader in our church continues to pave a way for the Black leaders who will follow her. You also get this if you are an Indigenous person or you are a gay person. People are watching. They need you to go to the next level so it's easier for them and then the people who will follow them. Like it or not, you're a pioneer. Some of you women know what that's like. You knew others were looking to you while you were taking hammer and tongs to glass ceilings. What you do matters to the next level. And you can't afford the luxury or the ease of building on sand. It is sweat-stained work because of the barriers people put up, because of who you are. I'm going to take you out of New Orleans today by bringing you with me on what was for me a very important pilgrimage during one of our visits. One of my musical heroes is Mahalia Jackson. Anybody heard of her before? Yeah. I found out she was buried in New Orleans, and I found out you could visit her grave. And it was supposed to be wonderful, and there was music playing, and people were leaving tributes. And when I asked about it at the tourist office, they told me, okay, you go out the airport highway about 3 miles, and you'll see the cemetery on your left. Took a couple more people with me. We found the cemetery, well, we found the funeral center. Beautiful columns, 3 stories. Went and parked, walked into this air-conditioned building, and there was a computer map so you could find where people were buried. And I couldn't find Mahalia anywhere on the map, so I went up and asked them at the desk. And first one said to me, "Is she a relative?" That should have been my first clue. I said, no, she was a wonderful singer, and I've been told that her grave's here, and I'd like to just go visit it if that's okay. Well, I've never heard of her, but let me find somebody who might know. And so a woman came out of a management office about 3 minutes later, and I did the story again, and she opened up the computer and she did some stuff, and she said, I can't find her grave anywhere. I said, oh, well, I was told it was out here, and I really wanted to visit it. She said, well, I'm really sorry. She said, can we check the spelling? Check the spelling, we did it again. And she said, really sorry. I said, so you don't know who she is? And she just looked at me and she shook her head. She's this wonderful woman who gospel singer, black music. It was just fabulous. She was, oh. The Black Cemetery is another mile down the road. Got in the car, got my friends with me. We drove to a cemetery that was marked by an Atco trailer, and that was their office. No columns, no air conditioning. And there was a young woman sitting behind the desk, and I told her what I was looking for. She said, oh yeah, and she told me exactly how to find the grave. And I said, can I just tell you what just happened to us? And she just shook her head, and she said, you're not the first. And you're not the first to tell us that they'd never heard of her. Anyway, it was beautiful. There were roses adorning the fence around it, and somebody had put in a cassette tape player and put it on repeat somehow, and it was playing her gospel music, and we just got to stand there and listen to her and honor her memory. But imagine that there was a barrier to being able to celebrate somebody like that.
Beyond impossibility, where concepts such as time and space evaporate, are meaningless. There flows an endless stream of grace. Deep in the darkness, laughter rocks as human minds are changed and swayed, as concrete truths are shaken down and doctrines challenged or betrayed. The greatest minds that have evolved have opened wonder, filled with awe, have pointed to infinity, yet left a darkness to explore. Unmeasured depths of gracious love, of godly mischief, reach and range, while new beginnings light our world, unlooked for, awesome, wondrous, strange.